Hi, and welcome to Serenity Now, a place for entrepreneurs to ask questions, learn, get connected, and be inspired. Join us as we talk about all things business and the search for the ever-elusive Serenity Now in both business and personal life.
Welcome to another episode of Serenity Now for Entrepreneurs. Today, I have the lovely ladies, Peggy.
Hello.
And Rita.
Hi.
Joining me. And we are going to be talking about Web3 and blockchain and NFTs and all sorts of things that I have no idea about. So we're going to try and talk intelligently and share some information. The one thing I can say, though, is it sounds like this is the next thing that, we laughed at our grandparents because they couldn't learn new things. Well, now I'm here. I have to learn new things.
Candace, we're all with you. We're right here with you.
So, Rita, maybe you can start off with a little bit of the information. You gave us a bit of a history on the web. Maybe you can go through that for us.
Sure. But again, we are just three old hens attempting to learn. And we thought since we are working through this, maybe this could be of interest to someone else, to others in our audience. There's this term or coin that's been used recently called Web3. And it's not recently, but I guess maybe it's more I'm hearing more about it more recently versus anything else. And so when you think of the internet or the web, what's the first thought that comes to mind? What do you think of, guys?
Well, I think of fake news, but anyhow.
Okay.
Well, I think of Google, so a search engine, and I think of my company website.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks. Although that was pretty good, Peggy. I do too. So to define this a little bit more, Web 1 is kind of like the era of the 90s to 2005. So that's the read-only stuff or static websites, like a blog or a news site. So something like that. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Okay. So Web 2.0 kind of moved from 2005 to right about now. So we are now read and write. So think of social media, think of the platforms or, where you have some data, Instagram, Shopify. That all kind of makes sense now, right? Because we're a little more interactive is where we went. Because before, you remember in the 90s, you logged on to the UBC school computer when you allocated your time and you were like, it's my 30 minutes now and I can go get that time. And it really was to get information. That was it. And so then we've moved forward and now our kids' age is more, they teach us what's this, chat the snap or Snapchat, whatever you guys call it. And then you go from there. And Web 3.0 is now going forward as well. So that's where you read, write, and own. So the users actually control their own data, your assets, your identity, things like NFTs, cryptos. Because the big thing with Web 2.0 was you don't control your own data. So let's say you have a YouTube channel and you've done all this stuff on there and you've got episode after episode, but you piss off somebody in YouTube and they're like, strike, you're out, and they shut everything down. So where did all your stuff go? You don't own it. You don't hold it. So this is Web 3.0.
So Web 1 was like reading the newspaper. Web 2 became like a party.
Yeah.
But the platforms own the venue. And then Web 3, you finally own a bit of it.
Yeah, I think that's great. So then we heard a bunch of other words and we were like, somebody figure this out. And so we're going to go through some definitions that people keep throwing around. I think we're going to try that.
So I'm going to start with blockchain. So I have to admit, apparently I use software that uses blockchain, but I'm not really sure how that works. But so blockchain is like a digital ledger. It's like a spreadsheet that everyone sees, but no one can secretly change. So it's out. It's a register. It's out there for everybody to see. Everything's time stamped and shared.
Okay, because there's a hockey game on tonight. I'm going to talk about smart contracts, but I'm going to make a hockey reference. So think of it like a hockey referee. When the puck crosses the goal line, the ref blows the whistle automatically. No arguing needed.
There's always arguing needed.
Well, you could fight a bit, but smart contracts do the same thing, only digitally. They execute deals when the conditions are met. So as soon as all the boxes are ticked, then the contract goes through.
That helps with enabling trust with people you don't know from around the world. And so this is where smart contracts in, like, for example, logistics and supply chain would start coming in super handy. Different vendors, right? So
we're using it in the accounting world. So the way we work with our clients now, we're actually like scoping out the work and listing everything that's going to be done, what the price is, how the payment's going to go. And so the client has to put the payment information in and sign it. And as soon as that happens, it's executed.
Yes.
And then a whole bunch of things happen.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes,
you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. The computers start doing a bunch of things. So,
yes.
Jobs are set up, tasks are requested.
Well, that's a good real life example of that, Candace. Thanks for that.
I like that. So then now we move on to something called tokens. So here's a thought on an analogy. Picture them like loonies or toonies, but digital. So they can actually represent money or give you access to like a community hockey game or special maple syrup discounts. We're totally using an analogy to make life easy. So, and they're all powered.
And those are powered by the blockchain, right?
Yep, that's right. That's the key.
So I'm going to talk about NFTs. So I have been exposed to NFTs before, and I thought it was just like crazy stamp collecting, honestly.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? Does anybody really know what NFT means?
Non-fungible token.
Okay, perfect. You're smart, Candace.
Artistic NFTs that people actually trade, like trading cards. I don't know. But the example here that we have is that it's like your roll up to rim, Tim Hortons roll up the rim win cup. It's got a serial number on it. It's unique. Except now you own the cup and you can actually sell it or trade it or turn it in and it's digital on the blockchain.
Kind of starts to make it a little bit sense.
Yeah. And that means I don't have to, like, how do you roll up the rim, guys? Like, how do you guys do that? Because it's hard.
It is hard. And they went digital for a while with the Tim's Cups, and now they're back to the real Tim's Cups. And I think there's some sort of court case on that, but we don't need to get into that right now.
Okay, so let's go. Let's get back on track. What the heck does this mean to my business, everyday business?
How does it about coffee because we love coffee.
It's just going. It's going, guys. It's all going sideways now. Maybe. Okay, let's see if we can get this back on track. All right. So let's bring it back to business. So why does Web3 matter right now? Like, what's the biggest thing? And we kind of mentioned it earlier today.
It must be the ownership of the data because, they say if anything is free, like things on the internet that you might do where there's no charge for the service, you're the payment. Your data is the payment. Whenever you go into these things where you give data freely and they don't charge you for your use of the platform, then you are the payment. All that they collect on you.
Yep. And who has control of all your data?
Yeah. So this would take that away, wouldn't it? It would take it away from the big tech firms and it would put it back in your own hands.
Yep. That's pretty much it. So it's like if you're building on someone else's platform like Instagram or Facebook or YouTube example we used earlier, right? They can change the rules at any time. You can be thrown off the platform.
I have to admit, I'm having trouble conceptualizing that in the context of like an Instagram or a Facebook. So you move to 3.0 and I own my data, but where is it and how do you converse with it? I'm like, are you still using social platforms? Like, I'm confused.
I don't know if this is going to make a difference with this. I might be totally wrong here, but I'm thinking it will make more difference for companies owning their own data as opposed to using platforms where they access the platform, store their data, but the data really isn't owned by them. If that platform, whatever it might be, Shopify, let's say, everything is done through their platform. I think the change here is that when you create your own, you would have ownership of it and control of your own data, as opposed to borrowing the space on Shopify or borrowing the space, somewhere where they own the data ultimately.
Yeah, you would own a piece of it. I think that's where it goes. Although at one point we should probably do another episode and bring an expert in. What do you guys think?
I think so.
Calling all experts.
I
Yeah.
just want to throw this idea out there because if we can make it at the very highest level, make people aware of it, and just break it down to some reasonably understandable references like Tim Hortons and hockey games, the Canadian thing.
And coffee.
And coffee.
Let's just take a second on this and kind of go, all right, guys, things are changing and they're changing quickly. And everyone says embrace the change. 3 things in life that are guaranteed: death, taxes, and change. Did I just make that up now? Okay. All right. So what do you guys think? Where do you stand on this kind of thing?
Well, I dabbled in the blockchain with our business previously. And
you did?
I did because it made so much sense. The blockchain seems to answer a lot of questions: speed, capability, cost, etc. But it is wide open to criminal activity still. Wide open to, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is. Maybe
there's still potential for hack.
It's not safe yet. How we get around that, I think if you put all the heads that spend the time developing every day in Canada on this task, you'd find a very, very quickly to make it the platform we need.
So I think it's changed from when you started with it. And I think it is, it's absolutely, gotten a lot safer. The big thing when people start talking about blockchain is they start talking about the environment, right? And, but it's using a lot of energy. And so how do we, look at that?
That is a huge question, It's like there's fields full of processors, right? It's crazy the energy that it takes, the heat that it generates, and technology moves very quickly, and they're constantly breaking down those gaming cards is what they use.
So that old way was POW, I believe, paid on work. Right. So the miner that was the fastest to finish the algorithm, then they get paid on work. But now they're setting it up a little different. That basically means you're kind of putting a token in, putting your money where your mouth is, and you kind of wouldn't cheat the system if you're putting your money where the mouth is. So they're basically coming up with purchase and tracking of carbon credits, other things. And so instead of using all that power, now you're putting the money in to work through it and go through it a lot faster.
Doesn't it still require a huge infrastructure to do all the processing of all those transactions?
No, not it is definitely moving towards more environmentally friendly now.
Well, okay. Well, it needed to, for sure.
It's crowdsourced or something. Like the processing is crowdsourced, right?
And that was one of the big pieces before we wanted to work on. So there was like a start. So we figured out how to start it, and now we need to improve on it, just like everything else. So learning about all of it, all up front, all at once is a little bit daunting.
And I can see that there's organizations that are working on ethical, safe, ways of making all this work for, I saw national organizations, I saw international organizations. Like there's a lot of people working on this, probably way smarter than me. So I'm assuming that they'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah. Cautious, excited, a little bit of both, intrigued for sure. Let's learn more.
For sure. It's going to be a new start, and maybe it's going to be a good start.
I just hope Canada keeps up.
Yeah, that's my concern too, is that, are we behind? Do we need to make changes to stay up where all this technology is going? Our financial infrastructure is antiquated, and there's a lot of changes needed. We have a client that does software for fintech, and they take so long to develop anything because of all the hurdles they run into when they're trying to develop anything in that area. So hopefully that can change.
Yeah. You said antiquated and or maybe also safer is another way to...
We're known worldwide, I think, for the safety of, but I think the actual technology, Rita, is antiquated.
I'm 100% with you. So we need to learn how to get moving, just like India and other areas, like other countries are just really moving fast. But then their legislation, regulations, all of that has moved forward. You're moving towards that. We're not quite there yet. Maybe we take a little longer, but there are some hiccups that others are experiencing. So we're learning from that, and then we can incorporate that. But I see us starting to do some development.
I wonder where, Ottawa is on this. They're pretty overwhelmed right now with a few other major issues this country is facing. I really wonder where they are on this, because this sounds like a huge issue. This sounds important to me. We pay a lot of companies shred money to develop, and we don't specify in which area they develop. So, if the country led us to Web3, maybe we'd get there faster.
Yeah. And I think there's some things coming around. I don't have it all. Again, this would be, podcast 1 on this. There's lots of stuff brewing. Like you said, there's lots of organizations or other groups, consortiums that are starting to come together to share understanding and learnings from both around the world and also try to move things forward here in Canada. So we're getting somewhere. But for some, not fast enough. And for others, good enough. We're still on pace because we still don't trust or understand, and understanding builds to and or gets to trust.
So I think I have a question then. If we were to look at Web3, and I'm a small business, what are some examples? And I know you've done some research on this, Rita. What are some examples of the places I might see it and how it would change what we do?
Well, I'm gonna toss it to Candice, because Candice, I think you're doing some stuff right now.
We've improved all of our technology. We've changed our practice management software. I call it a dynamic database rather than a traditional database. I don't know if that's the actual term for it, and one of the things that we implemented was a platform called Ignition. And so it creates smart contracts. So we set up the scope of work, we set up how, pay options and the terms and everything's included in it. Client reviews it, inputs their payment information and signs it. So based on the description that I found, I feel that this is a form of smart contract. Still using antiquated payment services. I think it's Stripe that backs it, but it definitely has sped things up in our office, because we get the engagement letter, the payment information, and a clear outline of what we're going to do for the client, kind of all settled, all in one fell swoop. So
that sounds amazing. And I'm sure it's reduced a lot of headaches and frustrations and freed up time for, your team to work on other areas where their skill sets are probably better used.
Absolutely. And another change we made, we actually reduced time for just billing clients by 0.7 of an FTE.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
That's huge.
Because it's all incorporated into the contract and the payment is already set up.
Exactly. We didn't let anybody go. I don't want people to think we're firing people or anything like that. We're just making better use of those people now.
So that's, I think, really something important to hit on and or mention, because a lot of people are on the other side thinking, well, if I implement this, then, we're going to lose jobs or people will lose their jobs. But you're saying exactly what I think it should be used for, is to make better use of our time and use the skill sets and strengths that we have, like you said, to better areas. And it's actually reducing time for your customers too. And that's billable time.
You can't get caught into that trap on billable time. We don't bill by the hour anymore, right? We may not be spending the same amount of time that we used to, but we're still delivering the same service. But we have to pay for all these products to be able to deliver these things. So now our service model can't be by the hour. It needs to be by the service. Some of that time that we're saving, we are redirecting to improving client service. We have a whole group of people working on customer experience. What is the customer experience? What do we want the customer experience to be? We're pretty serious about that. 2 years ago, we were just too busy trying to get paperwork through the door, in and out, to be able to even think about what's the client experience.
Yeah. But even if you're not billing on time, the staff is not immersed as much anyways. So even if you did go back to that old model of time, the staff are using less time, like you said, on each of the projects anyways. So that does make a difference. And before, I recall a little while back, we had someone on saying, how do you make better use of your time or earn more revenues without adding more bums and seats? And I think this might get closer to that, giving them an answer with your analogy.
We're using tools, which we have to pay for, to deliver the same thing. So we're charging the same price. So we no longer charge by the hour.
The time that you save doing that, you have to attend to your clients, to give them a better experience, to give them a better service, to understand their business more, to be able to provide that professional expertise that would otherwise be caught up doing administrative tasks.
Yeah, and tax strategies. Oh, for goodness sakes, with everything changing, we need better time spent on that now.
We could do a whole episode on what happened at CRA this year, but let's not.
It's not. Now, let's go back to coffee. No,
I
just
like coffee shops. I like coffee shops.
Well, coffee shops, like, so if you go to any coffee shop or any other small retailer in the food industry, usually have those loyalty apps, right? And how many of you are, I don't know, I'm personally like loyalty app fatigued.
I am too. I don't even take them anymore.
Yeah. And like I have to open it up. Oh, freak. Now I got to update it. And you know what? I'm not going to be bothered to do it. So, but these like everything still stays on over there with them. Now they have NFT loyalty cards, tradable, ownable perks, right? So as Candace was mentioning before. So we can maybe look at stamps or points, maybe offer different discounts, access to events, or even have some resale value. So if I'm not going to be ever going there again or something like that, maybe that's a different way.
Trade it for something you do use, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. Someone was saying something like your regulars might become super fans and they own the perks, something like that. I was also interested in, my big thing is the payment method. That has been, an angst for all of us. And, there's one kind of, old traditional method that we've all been using. If we think of even like Swift payments, for example, the old way to move money from example, like USA to Canada. And if we move from like a USA bank to Canadian Credit Union, for example, it'd go from USA Bank to JP Morgan Chase to credit to come over here to RBC, I believe. And then it goes to Credit Union Central, and then it goes to your credit union. And every place it stops or you take a hit. And so that might not be the right steps. I might be forgetting some of those steps. But the point is there's a bunch of steps, and each step equals a hit. And so now we're looking at, there's all these delays and hits and stops. We have instant settlement. Like this is crazy.
So the currency wouldn't matter.
No. And you can choose your currency too, right? That's the other thing. So stable coins, crypto, lower fees, faster payments. There's a big dialogue right now on stable coins here in Canada. And some of the dialogue was around, if we don't figure this out, then we're going to use stable coins in a different currency. For me, Canadian or US or other currency, it's like fiat currency. So I'm not really that keen on it to begin with. Back it with gold, baby. And then we'll talk. And so stuff like that is where I want, or where I'd feel more comfort. Yeah. So lower fees, faster payments, and more stable.
So the real key seems to be the ownership, as we mentioned earlier, and the flexibility of when you own something, you actually have a piece of something. You don't just have a card with stamps on it from Starbucks. You have something that if you wanted to use it for some other purchase, you could use it. It's kind of like a form of money.
Yeah, it is. And you can actually use different things as currency from different assets, right? And those could be like from properties to art to actual currency to different types of cryptocurrency. Like, the list goes on.
Wow, I'm overwhelmed.
I do think that there still needs to be care taken. Somebody that I know here, recently he got scammed with cryptocurrency. So you got to be careful, make sure that you're dealing with reputable sources and things like that. But I mean, it was like email at the beginning. You get those emails from the Prince of Kumbaya and they're going to give you $1 million for whatever.
Yeah, your long-lost cousin in India trying to find you because some uncle left you money. Yeah, that
You
one.
didn't click on that and say, yes, I am the heir?
No, but there's some funny stories out there. But, people, smart people that I know that are my age falling for scams on the telephone. They're just out there. So what I like about this, once we settle into it, once we have government involvement in it, once we have everybody buying in, we're going to have it secure enough and its own security built in, the trust that you mentioned earlier, Rita, built into it, especially when you get government engaged in it. It's going to have all that security that our current financial system has in place. And then it will be so amazing for everyone because, as you say, faster, cheaper, and the ownership. So I think it's something to look forward to. I don't understand it enough to comment any further, but I think those things must appeal, right? They must appeal to us.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely very, very curious. I really, really would love to learn more. And like you said, cautiously optimistic and cautious with, improving and are making space for this new form or these new waves that are coming through in all different facets in business that others have already started. Some of them are doing well. Some of them have hiccups. We're learning from some of those hiccups. And then we're slowly, pulling together some infrastructure here because that's what we really need to get done. legislation, regulations, infrastructure, and it's okay to go a little slower and get it right.
There you have it. Well, ladies, do you think it's time we did a little quick fire to wind this conversation up? I think I just said mine. I think the ownership is key, and I really think that there's some real opportunities for a different way of looking at things when that is the case.
I like the idea of the quicker, faster, easier, I still want safe, but quicker, faster, easier. I'm all over that for sure.
Yeah, I'm all about taking a look at what you guys said, but also the whole idea of being able to work in like supply chain logistics. So if we're talking, any of the stuff that we're doing in food and manufacturing and trade, like overseas, like that's a game changer, right? That's an absolute game changer. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all comes together. Still early. It's real. We got to start learning. We got to probably take a few falls or a few hits. And it's good to help us kind of start sharing and dialoguing now. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Where are you guys at? What are your thoughts? Curious, excited, scared, not going to talk about it. Let's just go for coffee. but yeah, like I guess we're still all learning and it's moving fast. So even if you're learning a little, you got to keep going. And I guess that's the name of the game. Change is here to stay, and let's go for a ride. And so I guess with that, I'm going to say that's probably a good way to finish off this episode, or maybe start the next one. And again, we're reaching out to some experts to come in and make it better, make us understand it, help us out. But I hope that perhaps a little bit of this has started the knowledge percolation, perhaps. And we hope that this episode has intrigued you to start learning, sharing, and growing, and maybe share this with somebody that you may know that might help them. And so for now, we're signing off, and we hope, we hope this brought you some serenity now. Thanks, guys.
We are going to wrap up for this year, have a summer off, and we'll be back in September with some more interesting episodes. Perhaps we'll bring someone on that can help us further investigate some of the topics we touched on this year. And we hope you have a great summer and some serenity now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and picked up some good tips and best practices that would benefit your entrepreneurial journey. Remember, none of the content in this podcast should be relied upon as standard legal or business advice. Always consult a professional for your specific business. You may know someone who could benefit from this podcast. Please share it with your business community, and perhaps it can give an entrepreneur you know some serenity now.